The teen was held captive for 25 years in a prison cell bedroom. This is a story you probably have not heard of because nobody knew what this girl was going through for the past 2 decades. But it has just been revealed. She has been rescued, she survived, but what she endured is absolutely absurd, and it causes a bigger problem when you realize that this sort of thing is happening all over the UK, and it's actually something that has happened to thousands of victims and needs to be further addressed. This survivor was rescued by someone very close to the person keeping her captive. But why did it take so many years for that rescue to occur? And why did CPS ignore the many different reports about this family in regards to the wellness of not only this teen, but other teens in the family, other children in the family? And why was nothing done to make sure that these children were safe? You are such a genuine gem. Thank you for clicking on my video. I am Brooke Makenna, and here on this channel, we focus on the victims over the killers every single time. So if that's something you also feel passionate about when it comes to true crime content, I would really appreciate if you would subscribe down below, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. But I am so grateful for these sponsors that allow me to continue to tell these stories, and today's is Kitsch. I'm so happy to announce that I'm going to be working with Kitsch again in the new year. Expensive hair care does not automatically equal quality, just like inexpensive hair care doesn't equal a lower quality of product, and Kitsch is the perfect example of that. They're inexpensive hair care that actually works. Every product that I've tried from Kitsch, I've implemented into my weekly routine because I love it that much. I start with their rice water protein shampoo and conditioner bars to really clarify my scalp and give it this double cleanse that makes it so that I'm really getting all of that product from the prior week out. Protein also strengthens my hair to aid in hair growth that actually feels and looks good. I swear since switching to these products, my hair has been looking fuller and longer with more shine, and overall I just love using the Kitsch products and I can see the results consistently. And with my discount, each of the shampoo and conditioner bars are $11 each, so the set's around $21. They ship into the US and internationally to over 90 countries. So basically you are getting 25% off that will auto apply when you use my link or scan my QR code. And I will definitely be using my discount on my next order with Kitsch. Now let's get back to the story. It was March 15th of 2021, and a call for help escaped a prison-like room created to hold this victim inside for the past 2 decades. Now, at the same time, there was also a man calling the police stating that he was concerned for the welfare of an individual and gave the same address. This home was in Tewkesbury, Gloucestershire, England, and police responded to the call that evening. They went inside the residence and they found a very frightened and gaunt victim who smelled very strongly of body odor.
The moment police enter a room that's been a woman's prison for a quarter of a century. The filthy bedclothes, the mould on the wall, the bare plaster, all inside a Gloucestershire suburban house.
Absolutely filthy bedding.
Now, Detective Sergeant Alex Pocket said that the victim held her head down and it was very clear that she was frightened even by the police. Now, she was assessed by paramedics who found her malnourished and with no teeth. Her lips and her face were scarred and she had large calluses on her feet and her ankles. Her hair was chopped very close to her head and she had bruises all over her arms. She was in a terrible condition, and she appeared as though she had not seen the outside of that home for a very long time. Of course, police didn't know how long that really was at this time. Her bedroom was found to be this makeshift bed on plywood surrounded by bare plaster walls where there was mold, it was unpainted, it was scratched up, there was no light bulb in this room. Everything appeared to be unwashed and old. And the police would describe this situation, these conditions that she was living in, as appalling, cruel, and inhumane treatment. The woman, who is referred to only as Kay, allegedly told the police at this time, "I don't want to be here. I don't feel safe. Mandy hits me all the time. I don't like it." She then explained that she had not washed herself in years because Mandy didn't let her. While rushing Kay to get treatment at the local hospital, police obviously found the owner of this home was a 56-year-old named Amanda, or Mandy Wixon. She was also a mother of 10. One of which was older at this time. It's unknown how many were actually adults at this time and how many were still in the residence, but there was one that was definitely estranged from his mother at this time, and he was the one who was found to have called the police to get help for Kay. Now, this entire home was actually in dire conditions. It was overcrowded. It had mold on the walls, trash in the back garden. It was not well taken care of. But what police couldn't have known at this time was just how long Kay had been trapped there. It turned out that this girl was around 40 years old, and she had finally escaped this captivity, but she had gone missing at 16 years old. This was back in 1996 when Kay's family was unable to take care of the teen who had learning disabilities. They were a bit of a dysfunctional family, and they knew Wixon, Mandy Wixon, and her family. And so when Wixon agreed to take her in, she moved in. But Wixon's plan was not to treat this girl as her own. It was to create a house slave out of her. Kay would explain that for the next 25 years, she was unable to leave the residence. The doors and the windows were always locked. She was forced to clean the home, to make meals for the family, take care of the children, do the laundry, and she was regularly beaten. Wixon would strangle her, put her head in the toilet, stomp on her, hit her with a broom, which that led to slowly knocking out all of her teeth. She had detergent squirted all down her throat, bleach splashed on her face, and her hair shaved off against her will. As far as food, Kay explained that she was often given scraps and very limited amounts of food. She wasn't allowed to bathe, so she would often do so in secret at night if she could manage. So investigators began digging into this girl and the records of her care throughout the years. They found that Kay had no medical records, no dental records, and it was likely she had not seen a doctor in 2 decades. Social services also did not have a record of Kay specifically throughout the years after the last involvement with her own family back in the late 1990s. It was said by the late 1990s, this girl was believed to disappear into a black hole and no one questioned it. Social services did nothing to find her or to make sure she was safe, and it wasn't a lack of knowledge on their part either. Neighbors had their concerns way before she had been captive for 20 years, and they had reported to social services as early as the 2000s. A neighbor of the Wixons named Karam Atwal told the police that she remembered seeing the victim as a child when she first moved in, when she was about 16, but she had not seen her for probably 10 years and was completely unaware that she still lived there. She said she once called social services. In fact, she started doing it many times after seeing Kay being beaten and ripped up like a rag doll, but nothing was ever done by social services. And then Karam stopped seeing the girl outside, so she figured that it was dealt with. The most recent call that she had made regarding Kay was in 2019 because she had seen Kay waving through the window for hours at a time. Karam called the home a house of horrors. Another stated that there were always so many people living in this small house that they would have thought the social services would have been in contact with them.
We knew she was there in the very beginning when we were kids, but I'd say the last 10, 15 years, we didn't see her. She was never seen.
Then there was a neighbor named Haley Natal who lived nearby and said that the county actually knew about this home and about Kay because she had told them about an incident with the Wixon family where the girl who she believed to be Kay was being held underwater in a paddling pool. The others seemed to drag her there, put her in, hold her down, and they were laughing. And Haley, who was going to start fostering children in 2018, had the council come to her house for that. And that is when she was very open about what had happened to this little girl in a neighboring house. She told them that that girl that she had seen next door, she had not seen for a long time since that accident, but that this family needed to be looked into. Haley stated that her own children used to play with the kids at the Wixon home, but they stopped after seeing Kay being put under the stairs and beaten with a Hoover pipe. Haley stated that the only time that she was contacted in regards to the family was about 20 years prior, when Wixon had trouble with an ex-partner and the police were called, but that had nothing to do with Kay. Other neighbors claimed that they occasionally saw Kay in the garden of that home, and then it looked like something out of a concentration camp. She was all skin and bone with a shaved head. Now, upon her rescue, the county council stated that they were only made aware of this victim's tragic situation when she was rescued in 2021. And after the police investigation began, and since that point, the adult social services were supporting the victim. This is when Mandy Wixon, the owner of that residence, and the mother was arrested on suspicion of neglect and taken into custody.
We've obviously had an incident reported to us tonight, and I got sufficient information from that incident to arrest you on suspicion of neglect. It's midnight on the 16th of March 2021. You're under arrest on suspicion of neglect. You don't have to say anything. It may harm your defence if you don't mention when questioned, something which may later lie in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Necessity for your arrest is to protect a vulnerable person and to conduct a thorough investigation, and it being prompt and effective. Okay, have you got any questions at this time?
No,
Okay.
at the moment.
Upon full assessment of Kay's health, doctors officially declared her as malnourished. The scars on her lips and her face were from being splashed with bleach, and the calluses on her feet and ankles were from constantly being on her hands and her knees while cleaning floors. Dentists noted that she would have been in agony for years due to the untreated infections and abscesses that were occurring in her mouth due to improper hygiene and lack of dental care. Her teeth were falling out because they were rotting out of her head as the abuse occurred. But while imprisoned for over 2 decades, there were many of Wixon's children who grew up at this residence. At times, there were at least 13 people living in this home, and yet Kay was never given any sort of help until now. It turned out that Kay was not only being exploited for the care of the home and the children, but also her finances. You see, Wixon was claiming benefits for Kay since 2000, which were paid directly into Wixon's bank account. This was estimated to be a considerable sum after all of these years. None of this money appeared to be going to Kay or to her care. Instead, she was threatened with beatings, or she was actually beaten if she did not complete her jobs around the residence. She was forced to bathe the children and run baths for Wixon, even though she was unable to clean herself. She was fed 1 meal a day, and she started hiding foods in secret in case she got hungry. It was revealed that at one point, Mandy Wixon discovered that Kay had been given a secret cell phone. She took it from her, hit her in the face with it, and then smashed it with a hammer. Again, this is a woman who was in her 40s by the time of rescue and spent a lot of her adult years trapped in this residence. Kay ended up with a black eye at that point. But then on March 15th of 2021, when she finally escaped, she had actually called the police with another secret cell phone that she had been given. This was believed to be given to her by Mandy Wixon's son, who had also called the police that day, though that is not confirmed. At this point, Mandy Wixon was charged with false imprisonment, 2 charges of requiring a person to perform forced labor, and 4 charges of assault occasioning actual bodily harm. During the 13-day trial, the prosecution told the jury that she was kept in and prevented from leaving this address. She was assaulted and hit many, many times, forced to work with the threat of violence. She had been denied food, the ability to wash over years at a time.
Yeah, so the victim was treated horrendously over the 20 years that she was in the address. There were numerous assaults throughout the course of the period of time that she was in the address. So she was pushed down the stairs, she was hit with a broom. She hardly left the address while she was there, probably only left the address on a handful of occasions. And she was just used to do lots of menial tasks around the house. She'd be getting up early to ensure that the kids in the address, so Miss Wixom's children, were got ready for school and they were bathed. Yeah, so we believe she did a massive amount of work while she was there. She was constantly on hands and knees, constantly sweeping up with a dustpan and brush. She wasn't allowed to use a hoover, so she had to do all those tasks sort of by hand. The doors were locked in the property, and effectively the control that Mrs. Wixon had over the victim meant that she hardly left the property. Probably, like I say, on a handful of occasions she only left the property. And quite a lot of that was in the sort of the early stages when she was living at the address. And as time went on, she left the property less and less, and certainly not very often in the last few years, if not longer. There was the emotional and physical control that Mrs. Wixon held over the victim. Yeah, so probably in the late 90s, Mrs. Wixon took the victim to the benefits office in Gloucester, and from that point onwards, the victim's benefits were paid into Mrs. Wixon's bank account. From 2016 to 2021, Miss Wixon received over £33,000 in the victim's benefits. I've not come across a case like this, and it's clear that it's had a massive impact on the victim.
The prosecutor said that Kay was failed by social services and that she is now living with a foster family, attending college. She's gone on holidays abroad with the family after being trapped for decades. The jurors were told that Kay's health had improved since then and that she had become much more independent. She was actually given dentures so she could smile again, and she was highly emotional when she saw her teeth. She was able to go out, to put on weight, to grow her hair. She has been able to achieve so many things in the time of being rescued to the time of this trial. However, due to her captivity, she suffers nightmares and has a constant wish to clean herself. But Wixon was denying everything, and she claimed her estranged son suggested things to this woman to tell to the police. She denied all of the abuse, saying that her household was just chaotic with poor hygiene, but that this woman was not stopped from leaving, and she was actually telling her to go wash herself, but the woman would not. Now, the defense claimed that the prosecution's case was a tale of fantasy, of lies, and that there was a childlike fantasy to the woman's allegations. That the other children that Mandy Wixon had were also not vaccinated. They did not attend school. They had rotting teeth. They had head lice. They all lived in the squalid conditions, and the other children's bedrooms were just as bad as Kay's. The defense stated the truth is that just like Mandy and others in the family, their teeth rotted out by neglect and has been inflated to a story of violent abuse. Negligent, but not the systematic abuse that has been alleged. This idea that she was caged inside that house like an animal is simply not right. It was revealed in court that the police had voice notes sent by Kay to Wixon's son Clint that they were able to use to build this case because Kay was expressing her fear, saying she felt unsafe and she wanted to leave. Detective Constable Emma Jackson stated that she commended the victim for reaching out for help, knowing all too well that the violent consequences would have been given if she would have been caught. She stated that it was incredibly courageous of her, and now she is flourishing. The jury deliberated for 8 hours, and Mandy Wixon was found guilty of false imprisonment, requiring a person to perform forced labor, and assault occasioning actual bodily harm. She was acquitted of one of the assault charges, but found guilty of the other 3. The constable stated that she was guilty of a modern-day slavery offense following investigation by the police team's criminal investigative department. Mandy Wixon denied the charges, said the conviction was rubbish, and was released on conditional bail, with the judge telling her that she was going to get jail time. It was a certainty. When asked what she had to say to her victim by reporters, she replied, "Not a lot." When she was asked if she was going to say sorry, she said, "No, I never done it." When she was asked if she was a monster, she lit her cigarette and said, "Say what you think."
Amanda, what have you got to say to your victim?
Not a lot.
Aren't you sorry?
No, I never done it.
Any remorse
About what?
about locking up your victim for 25 years?
Why am I going to have remorse for something that I haven't?
Because you locked up a poor, vulnerable girl for
I never
25
locked her
years.
up.
Well, the jury just said you did.
She is now scheduled to be sentenced on March 12th of 2026. Now, the senior Crown prosecutor said Amanda Wixon subjected the victim in this case to decades of unimaginable cruelty, exploitation, and control. She was denied her freedom, her dignity, and even the most basic autonomy. The progress she has made since being removed from this oppressive government is a testament to her strength. Now, modern slavery is said to actually be a significant issue in the UK, with 19,000 victims identified back in 2024 for labor exploitation, which was the highest on record thus far. The National Crime Agency believes there are tens of thousands more victims, far more than previously thought. The UK Government Home Division announced their plans to end modern slavery over a decade ago, and the police forces are still seeing a rise in human trafficking and exploiting labor, and it's becoming a true epidemic. The story of Kay is not the only one.
The victims of modern slavery can be a variety of people, anybody who find themselves entrapped in a situation where they're abused or exploited.
Traffickers find vulnerable adults who may have dependencies or may have debts, and they traffic them for labour exploitation.
Modern slavery is very difficult to detect. It's a hidden crime in its nature. And victims, they don't have a label on saying, "I'm a victim."
According to the latest Home Office statistics, potential victims of modern slavery are at a record high. If you go back to 2023, there were nearly 17,000 referrals made to the Home Office. In the following year, that number had increased by 13%. And this year looks set to beat that. By June, there were already nearly 11,000 referrals made to the Home Office.
In fact, back in 2017, an entire family was jailed for exploiting 18 victims of modern slavery in Lincolnshire, England. This was about 3 hours from where Kay was being held, and actually she was being held during this time period. The Rooney family targeted homeless people and people with mental health issues or learning disabilities. They would lure them in with promises of work, money, and shelter, but they were kept in these squalid conditions, living in caravans without water or running toilets, forcing them to work for very little to no money. This was while their bosses, the Rooney family, wore Rolex watches. They got plastic surgery. They drove expensive cars. They lived in huge homes, took luxurious trips all over the world. They made an estimated £4 million, all due to the work of their victims, who were laying tarmac about 24/7 without a break and with very small portions of food while not being paid. Payment was cider, cheap cider, if anything, and they lived in fear that this family would beat them. These victims lived in caravans on the Rooney property. The vans were not mobile, their passports had been taken, they could not leave, they had nowhere to go, and they often had no one looking for them at this point. They were being completely controlled and abused if they did not work hard enough. And while they were being told that they were free to leave, they would be beaten if they tried. Members of the public had reported this family to the police, and a few victims even escaped to tell their story, but nothing helped because everyone was afraid of the Rooney family. Victims were placed into shelters after escaping, and then the Rooney family would just come and take them back, saying that they owed them money. You see, the Rooney family had a tarmacking and construction business. This was Martin Rooney Sr., his wife Bridget, and their adult kids, twin sons John and Patrick, and their other son Martin Jr. But the members of their extended family were also involved in part of the business, as well as the daughter-in-laws. In 2014, the Lincolnshire Police and the National Crime Agency carried out a raid that freed men ages 18 to 63 from this family. One man was believed to have been kept for 26 years. There were 18 males identified as victims.
Okay, so got a fridge there, bedding area. It's quite smells quite badly. Got bed in there. Remnants of a cooking area and a sink. Covered there. And someone's got his some more personal belongings. Doesn't appear to be any toilet area, unless it's that covered up in clothing.
The reverend who helped to free them described this family as bad as warlords that he met during his army service in Bosnia. He said he was surprised how violent and evil the Roonies were, that they would go around with knives and slash people. They would tie people to logs and put them through the sawmill. They were really in charge of this community, and everyone was so scared to speak out against them. But one of the survivors after this raid stated that he was once ordered to dig his own grave if he did not sign the work contract. Another stated that they had their teeth smashed out with a concrete block, was hit over the head with a rake, and was forced to sign a contract that was life-binding.
I've been quite scared because I've seen what they're capable of.
How would you describe your time on the site? How would you describe it? Tell me what job.
Wasted, simply.
Yeah. And what do you think now since you've left?
Yes.
What do you think now?
For me, it's personal. Because it's not even a matter of the money, because money is money, but they let me down as a people.
Many were denied medical help for injuries over the years. Many were extremely thin and malnourished, and they all lived in a constant state of fear. Some had disability support being paid that the Rooney family were stealing. In 2017, 11 members of the family were jailed for slavery, 10 men and 1 woman, the mother. 3 of the longest sentences given belonged to Martin Sr., who was the father, who got 10 years, but then his twin sons, John and Patrick, were jailed for 15 years and determined to be the most culpable of the slavery and the abuse. The others got sentences from 5 to 11 years, and the whole family got 79 years in total. It was feared that this was happening far beyond just this family at different travelers' sites. And by 2019, this family was ordered to pay back £1 million to the survivors under the Proceeds of Crime Act. Police stated that it was one of the largest modern slavery rings uncovered. They were described as chilling in their mercilessness. To hold someone captive and exploit them of labor and abuse them if they are not performing while you strip them of everything is a whole nother form of torture. I mean, this poor woman in the first case, 25 years that she was not allowed to leave and was in fear for her life. And then with the Rooney family, there was that one man, and I'm sure many others, who were there for 26 years, around the same amount of time. This is horrendous. This is modern slavery. Kay's story really breaks my heart because she was supposed to go into this family that was supposed to be better for her, help her, love her, and instead they decided that she was going to be their maid, their nanny, but not even just a paid or a well-treated maid and nanny, but someone that was being held against her will and forced to work, and held long after she needed to stay with the family because there was not an option for her to leave. I would really love to know more about Mandy Wixson's children, how they feel about this whole situation, if they are now adults, which I assume a lot of them would be considering it's been 25 years. And we do know that one is an adult, and I would really love to hear Clint's opinion on all of this, why he decided at this point that Kay was no longer going to be going through this. You know, as children, I'm sure that the Wixson kids saw her as a woman who was there to take care of them. They didn't understand that this woman was being held there, that she couldn't leave, or even if they did, there was not much they could do about it then, you know, and if the abuse was occurring in front of them, which I really hope that it wasn't, them seeing that from an early age might have made them believe that this was the norm. And, you know, God forbid they were also being abused as well. I wonder if Clint at this point, he realized what he had been through. He knew that Kay was still there, and he just decided enough was enough and he was going to save her. But I do have many questions. I mean, what the defense was talking about when they said, well, everybody's rooms looked that way and all of the kids were neglected. Do you think that that has any weight on her innocence, on Mandy Wixon's innocence? Does that show that, oh, well, she just was treating everybody that way, so no, she shouldn't be charged with the crime against Kay? I don't think that that makes any sense, that she shouldn't be charged. Maybe she should be charged further for what occurred to her other children, and I would love to know and to get justice for them if that was something horrific as well. But I think the biggest thing for me here is that if what the defense is saying is true, if Mandy has told them, you know, all of the children were treated this way, if that's the case, social services didn't just fail one girl, they failed 11 children. 11 of them. And the amount of times that they were called out to this house, well, if it looked like in the condition that it looked like when Kay was found, you would think that that would have raised some red flags. Now, I do want to share signs of modern slavery with you. They're often hidden, but some of the signs can be signs of abuse, of a victim being malnourished or unkempt, appearing withdrawn. There can be an isolation with rare interaction with others, or poor living conditions, or few personal items, or few documents. It can be a restricted freedom of movement. It can be unusual travel times if they're, you know, being dropped off at a job site. They often will have no will to seek help. They will appear frightened and hesitant to talk to strangers. It is almost like they have become so traumatized that they are not doing anything to leave because they don't believe that there is a world in which they are free. And that is heartbreaking. So those are some signs to look out for, and always make sure to be calling social services and the police. And while we know that that can sometimes just be ignored, they cannot ignore all of us constantly calling, constantly writing in, constantly speaking about it. I will leave the numbers down below, but if you suspect someone to be a victim, contact the 24/7 Modern Slavery Helpline at this number. But Kay, I am so thrilled to hear that she is in a happy foster family and she is learning how to do life. You know, it's kind of sad that at 40 years old, she had to be placed into a foster family because she literally does not know how to live at all. And they are going to have to teach her all of that. But it seems like she's making great progress, and I wish her so much love and healing and just the best life possible. And I hope she moves forward and she gets to do everything she has ever wanted, everything she was hoping and praying for while stuck in this home. I normally post on Sundays, and there will be one coming this Sunday, so make sure to come back. If maybe YouTube doesn't like to give you a notification when my video comes out, you can sign up for the Genuine Gem newsletter. Basically, I can just personally send you my videos and give you little inside information about our community. So I will leave that link down below as well. So don't forget to speak up. Your voice is powerful enough, and I love you to absolute pieces.